Track 6, The Big Problem. We started by looking at unschooling, which is the most popular path for self-directed learning. This approach has some challenges which some people are unable to overcome. It generally requires a large amount of parental support and can be isolating depending on your geographic location and access to transportation. Self-directed learning centers have filled this gap by providing a physical space for young people to come together and learn, alleviating the dependency on the parents. Yet, as you may have noticed when trying to locate a self-directed learning center near you, there are really not a lot of them out there. So if you don't have parents who can support your unschooling, and you don't live near a self-directed learning center, what do you do? And setting out to find ways to make self-directed learning available, affordable, and accessible to all youth, we come to a roadblock. Oftentimes, when this subject comes up, the focus quickly shifts to debating what the best model is. Is it unschooling, a Sudbury school, an agile learning center, a liberated learner center? As if we need to first decide what model is best and then make an effort to promote these models. Within the self-directed learning world, these debates often seem endless and divide us more than they unite us. Even pioneering leaders like Daniel Greenberg, who co-founded the Sudbury Valley School, wrote an article titled, "Let's Be Clear, Sudbury Valley School and unschooling have nothing in common." Reference 175. This article is representative of the kind of infighting that takes place, and while the article makes some valid points about unschooling focusing on family relationships and a Sudbury school focusing on community relationships, it seems to do nothing but divide this movement. Many leaders within the unschooling movement are also quick to criticize one another for their different approaches to unschooling, often shaming parents who don't adhere to the purist philosophies, with Facebook groups commonly spreading messages like, "Well, that's not unschooling. You're not really an unschooler. This is a group for discussing unschooling." I'm not even a parent, and I've been criticized and publicly attacked for my approach of sharing this knowledge with teens rather than sharing it directly with parents, because I may cause a rift within a family if a teen learns about unschooling and their parents are not supportive of it. As you can tell from my enthusiasm in the previous chapters, I'm a fan of all of these different models of learning centers, and I'm also a fan of unschooling. There is no best model, and there is no perfect way that learning should happen everywhere. The effectiveness of these different approaches to self-directed learning depends on the specific community that the learning centers are created in and the specific needs and personalities of the individuals who participate. Rather than comparing the different learning centers to choose a favorite or decide what is best, I prefer to examine what qualities all these learning centers have in common. This helps to see what pieces are critical to a successful, self-directed learning center and how this is distinct from what you see in conventional schools. Blake Bowles did an excellent job of summarizing this comparison in his keynote address at the 2019 Aero Conference. He says, "When I zoom really far out and define conventional education, I see mandatory curriculum, standardized testing, homework, narrow age grouping, grades, our traditional power hierarchy, little freedom of physical movement, little autonomy for the teachers and other adults, little privacy for anyone, a closed campus, specific hours for arrival and departure, and the requirement to show up all 5 days of the week. Conversely, a self-directed approach looks like something without mandatory curriculum, standardized testing, grades, or homework, where there's full age mixing, real decision-making power for young people, real freedom of physical movement, high autonomy for the adults, high personal privacy, an open campus, and flexible arrival and departure hours, including flexible weekly schedules." Reference 176. In a perfect world, we wouldn't just have one self-directed learning center in every community. All these different styles of learning centers would be available in every community, and teens around the world would get to choose between multiple options and could be free to switch anytime they wanted. This is a bit of a fantasy since most communities don't have any of these learning centers available. I think this is a dream worth pursuing because all these learning centers are amazing places that can help young people pursue self-directed learning. There is an underlying problem which needs to be addressed if we are ever going to see a rapid growth in the number of self-directed learning centers that exist in the world. The problem is not an educational problem. It is an entrepreneurial problem. Specifically, there are two aspects of the entrepreneurial problem we need to address: people and money. Let's start with the people problem. To open a learning center requires an individual or a pair of individuals to take the lead to open the learning center, and there just aren't that many people out there looking to open learning centers. I remember going to the 2018 Aero conference, where Aero director Jerry Mintz held a school starters workshop for people interested in opening learning centers. There were maybe 25 people in the room. I realized that even if every single person in that room succeeded in opening a learning center, and each center had 100 students, we're only talking about helping 2,500 kids. Yet there are over 10 million youth who could benefit from a self-directed learning center. We simply don't have enough adults willing and able to open learning centers at this time. The people problem isn't just a lack of leaders. It's also a problem that the leaders can quickly get burnt out. It takes an incredible amount of time and energy to keep these learning centers afloat financially, and there is very little monetary reward. Many founders quit within a year or two of starting. With such small organizations, losing a founding member can be devastating, often resulting in closure of the learning center. It's disheartening to think of how many teens have had an opportunity to leave the school system to join a self-directed learning center, have taken that leap, and then were forced to return to school after their learning center was closed. In addition to founders quitting because of burnout, many quit after they lose the motivation. For example, many learning centers are opened by parents who are motivated to create the learning center because it serves their own child, and once the youth ages out of the program, the parent feels less inclined to continue the program. Many learning centers are also started by former teachers, which presents a different problem. While their heart is in the right place, their motivation for opening the learning center is usually to have more freedom in their teaching, not to run a business. Yet the hard reality is that a self-directed learning center is a business. This is a big disappointment for many teachers, many of whom end up quitting and shutting down their learning center. There is some hope for solving the people problem. Just last year, Princeton Learning Cooperative co-founder Joel Hammond published the Teacher Liberation Handbook, which offers instructions and best practices for teachers on how to quit their teaching jobs and open self-directed learning centers. Joel's book is very honest and direct, and should provide a realistic perspective for teachers looking to make the leap, so that they will be prepared when they do. It's too soon to measure the impact of this incredible book, but I hope it finds its way into the hands of every existing teacher and college student studying to become a teacher. In addition to the people problem, there is also a money problem. All of the aforementioned models of learning centers all struggle for monetary reasons. It takes money to open up a learning center, the greatest expenses being rent, staff, and insurance. For example, Joel Hammond shares that the Princeton Learning Cooperative in Princeton, New Jersey, spent $40,000 in their first year. Reference 177. Unless the founder of the learning center has a lot of savings or an inherited fortune, tuition money is needed to pay all the bills. Attracting tuition-paying members to a brand new learning center is really challenging. After all, who wants to enroll in a learning center that doesn't exist or have any students yet? You can imagine how challenging it is to open the doors to your learning center on day one, while having enough students paying tuition to cover your costs. To make matters worse, once the founders open the doors of the learning center, they become so busy running the learning center that they don't have extra time available to promote the center and attract new tuition-paying members. In the Teacher Liberation Handbook, Joel describes what he calls the year of pain, where anyone starting a learning center basically has to go with little to no pay for their first year to get things up and running. The year of pain then applies to any new staff members who join. During the year of pain, each new staff member works to attract new students to join the learning center to help bring tuition numbers up so that the following year there will be enough money in the budget to pay that staff member a salary. Another aspect of the money problem applies especially to learning centers that focus on serving teens, like Liberated Learner Centers. Since there is a much smaller window during which a member can attend a teen-only center, at most 5 to 6 years for someone who joins at age 13, they are constantly losing members. This is not as big of a problem for a Sudbury School or Agile Learning Center, which are open to K through 12 and retain students for much longer. I recently asked Ken Danford at his book signing for Learning is Natural, School is Optional, did you always have the policy at North Star that you wouldn't turn anyone away for financial reasons, or did you add the policy after things stabilized? He replied, we always had that policy, but let me be very honest. We've been open for over 20 years and it's never been stable. The way we stay open is that we don't pay people as much as we'd like to. As I mentioned earlier, there is little to no public funding available for these alternative learning centers. Occasionally, grant money is available, but it is sparse. Some programs are supported by generous donations, but these are also limited. Ken has told me that at most, about 40% of the annual revenue of Liberated Learner Centers come from donations. Reference 178. As you can tell, financial instability is a huge problem for starting and running a learning center. When combined with the people problem, I paint a pretty dreary picture. It's not all negative, though. After all, people are making it happen. There are over a dozen Liberated Learner Centers, over a dozen Agile Learning Centers, and many more Sudbury schools and democratic free schools currently operating. But it's not enough. Countless teens are without these opportunities. So let's do something about it. The whole next chapter is devoted to teaching you how you can overcome both the people problem and the money problem to create your own zero-tuition, student-run learning center in your community.